Hello, good afternoon, wonderful people. I'm so excited to be back your way. Today, we're going to be discussing, as usual, a very exciting topic in U.S. immigration law. We're going to be taking a look at what are the documents that a visa lottery winner must prepare in order to get ready for the announcement season. Announcement season is usually in May. Last year, the winners were announced, I believe, on May 8th or May 9th. So this year you just keep your ears on the ground from about May 1st through to the end of May. The winners are likely to be announced. So in this video, I will be discussing with you the list of documents that you need to get ready. You start getting ready in anticipation for your big win. Okay. All right. So my name is AK Poku. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney, founding attorney at AK Poku Law. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing to our channel and liking this video and sharing, of course, with your family and friends who may need U.S. immigration law information or help. Okay. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and then you will see what we're working with today. Okay. All right. So now, first of all, so this document, the source of this document is the U.S. Department of State. It's from the travel.state.gov website. Remember, any website that ends with .gov is a U.S. government website, and so you can, be sure of the authenticity or the validity of the information. So this information is legitimate. Okay. So first of all, once you find out that you are a winner, you will have to complete your DS 260 form, and that is an online immigrant visa application form. I'm sorry. So to access the DS 260, you have to enter your DV visa case number. Okay. So again, a separate form is required for each applicant. So for example, you are the winner, you're the principal applicant, you have your wife with you. You and your wife cannot both fill out one DS 260. It's like a passport. Each person needs their own. So you fill out a form, your wife will fill out a form, children, forms for them as well. So each person needs a separate DS 260. Now you fill it out to the best of your ability, and then you submit it. And once you submit it, you will print out the confirmation page, and then you bring it to the interview that you'll be attending in person. Don't forget, if there are discrepancies between what you actually filled out during the visa lottery period and what you are submitting and on the DS 260, you may have problems. Okay. Now let's move on to the next thing. Let's just move on straight to the supporting document. Well, maybe let's do the important note. They've issued two notes for us. So the first one is that if your family circumstances have changed after you enter the lottery, for example, if you have gotten married or had a child, you will need to add your new family members to your case. Family member refers to a spouse and or unmarried children who had not reached age 21 before you enter the lottery. Okay. So if your family circumstances have changed, then you need to add those people to your application. Add them to your case. Okay. Don't omit them because that will be a problem for you later on. The next thing is if you had a spouse or children prior to submitting the original entry, but you did not include them on your original entry form, then your case will be disqualified at the time of your visa interview. Neither you nor any of your family members will receive a visa. Yes, so that will disqualify you if you did not tell them the full truth about your family situation. If you're married, you say it's a single. When you win, you cannot now backtrack and say, "Oh, I'm married. I just stated single on the application, but I'm actually married." You'll be disqualified. Okay. So the rules are very strict. The rules of this game, they are very strict. So please take note. Now let's move on to the supporting documents. Let's get started. Well, you have to prepare all required documents according to the list I'm sharing on my screen. Um, Again, note that you will not send the documents to KCC, the Kentucky Consular Center. You're going to actually go with them to your interview. You'll go with them in person to meet the consular officer at the US Embassy near you. So, the first thing, obviously, is your passport, fundamental documents for international travel. Your passport must be valid to travel to the US. You must have at least 6 months validity. There's a 6 month validity rule, right? So, it must be valid for at least 6 months beyond the issuance date of your passport. Each visa applicant, regardless of age, must present their own passport. You can't travel in your father's passport or your mother's passport. So, guys, remember that if you just have, let's say, 4 months for your passport to expire, you need to you get it renewed. Renew your passport in anticipation for the results coming out, so that if you're a winner, you have a valid passport. Don't wait until the results are out and then everybody's scrambling to get a passport renewed or a passport issued if it's going to be your first time. Now, birth certificate. Each applicant's original birth certificate and one notary certified copy is required. So you need an original and then you need to include a certified copy, a notary certified copy as well. Um, if a visa applicant is as an adopted child, then you submit the original and notary certified copy of the final adoption decree of this child. Okay. Now let's take a look at the unobtainable birth certificate issue. There are some people, for example, people who were involved, their countries have been involved in wars, they don't have their birth certificates or some flood or whatever. What do you do in this situation? In rare cases, it may be impossible to obtain a birth certificate. For example, when official records have been destroyed or when governments are unable or unwilling to issue a certificate. In such cases, you should obtain a statement to that effect from the civil registrar's office and proceed to obtain secondary evidence of birth. A baptismal certificate may be submitted for consideration if baptism of the child took place shortly after the child's birth. The certificate must contain the child's date of birth, place of birth, and information concerning parentage. Okay, so here they're giving you a substitute for birth certificate if you fall within that rare category. As much as possible, try to obtain a birth certificate. But here there's a replacement document where you are unable, or the documents are actually unobtainable. Not that you are not able or there were challenges. The document has to be unobtainable for this exception to kick in. Okay, or this accommodation to kick in. And it should be should a baptismal certificate be unobtainable, a close relative, preferably the applicant's mother, should prepare a notary certified statement giving the child's date of birth, place of birth, the names of both parents, and the maiden name of the mother. Okay. Now let's move on. I believe we have I'm not sure. I think the last portion of the page seems to be cut off. Well, yeah, that's just one line. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but marriage certificates or marriage termination. Um, Married persons are required to submit their marriage certificate and notary certified copy of it, as well as proof of the termination of any previous marriages. Okay, let's move to the next page. Okay, so don't forget you need an original and then you need a notary certified copy of your marriage certificate. And then again, if you've been previously married, don't forget to include um, original documents and notary certified copies of, for example, a divorce decree, or if your spouse died and that's what terminated the marriage, then you need to provide a copy of that death certificate as well, marriage annulment or whatever that signifies that there has been a previous marriage that has been terminated. Okay, and that makes your current marriage valid. Other documents reflecting name change. Now, if for some reason there are discrepancies in your name, some of your documents have, you know, let's say you changed your first name, you were called Prince Edwards, and you changed the first name and now became Emmanuel Edwards. You have to have documents that will reflect that name change, right? I tell people you can't just wake up and then decide, oh, today I'm feeling very Georgish or I'm feeling Edwardish, so I'm switching from Thomas to Edward, without notice. The world is unfair. We have to keep figuring out what's your new name this week. I mean, that's just going to launch the world into confusion, utter confusion. So in order for you to change your name, you have to make sure you've gone through the right processes and the world actually recognizes that you have changed your name. So you must present additional evidence from archives or courts if the above listed ones do not reflect all name changes you have had in the past. Okay. Um, For example, you changed your birth name to married name and back to your birth name after divorce. You must present records from archives confirming the name change at the time of marriage if the divorce documents do not contain that information. So just make sure everything connects to you, whatever document you're submitting. If there's any difference in name, if you need a court decree establishing a name change, statutory declaration affidavit along with a gazette, you need to have all those things that will actually demonstrate that there has been a name change and that you are the same person. Photograph. Don't forget the photograph, one color, full face photograph for each applicant, regardless of age. The dimensions are 5 by 5 centimeters. The photograph must be current. It means that you should have taken it within the last 6 months. The image must be sharp and correctly exposed. So you have to be careful. They don't want your ears missing. You can't wear glasses. There are rules. So make sure you the people that take the pictures for the U.S. Embassy, they know what the rules are. So you just go to them and they'll be able to help you with taking a valid photograph. Now, evidence of required education or work experience. Guys, remember, principal applicant, you must submit a certified copy of your school diploma confirming successful completion of secondary or high education. Again, I repeat, you must submit records reflecting successful completion of secondary or higher education. Or in the alternative, if you don't have that, then documentary evidence of 2 years of work experience within the past 5 years in an occupation requiring at least 2 years of training or experience to perform. Okay, so again, the SVP ranges you're supposed to be in qualifying work experience. You need to make sure you visit ONET to make sure that you are within the right job zone 4, I believe, an SVP of 7.0 higher, or you have the successful completion. If you're using your secondary school certification, make sure you haven't failed courses, because remember, the actual law states that you must have successfully completed. So can you be said to have successfully completed secondary education if you failed some courses? The answer is no. Success means you've completed with flying, well, not necessarily with flying colors, but there was no failure. The opposite of to succeed is to fail, right? So if you fail, then you have not succeeded. So the consular officers will be looking at that as well. So be careful of all of that. Now, police certificate. Each visa applicant, at least you're of 16 years old, then you have to submit an original police certificate. You submit from the police authorities of where you live, where your current residence, if you have resided there for at least 6 months after you turn the age of 16. So if you are 16 and you resided at your current residence for just 2 months, then you don't need to submit for that. The second thing is from police authorities from all other countries where the applicant has resided for at least 1 year after the age of 16. So if you are based in Ghana and you lived in, let's say, Turkey 5 years ago, you lived there for more than 1 year, you need to submit a police certificate from Turkey. That's why the fact that you're currently in Ghana, you'll need a police certificate from Ghana as well. US, they don't need it. Even if you've lived in the US, they have all those records, so they don't need that. The third is from the police authorities of any country where the applicant has been arrested for any reason, regardless of how long he or she lived there. So wherever you've been arrested anywhere in the world, you need, the police certificates from that place, and they need to understand, of course, because they want to figure out who they're admitting into their country, who they're granting a lawful permanent residency to. So wherever you've been arrested, you need to submit police certificates from that place. Okay, let's move on. Information about obtaining police certificates from specific countries. Yes, exactly. Go onto the website travel.ca.gov of your, and then visit your country, and then find out how to procure these things. Okay. Now, police clearance letters are valid for 12 months from the date of issuance. So you're not required to renew a police clearance letter from your previous country of residence if you've not traveled to that country after the date of issuance of such letter. Now, they want your court, prison records, persons who have been convicted of crime. They must submit all court records, any prison records, regardless of whether they may have subsequently benefited from amnesty, pardon. So with immigration, there's nothing like clemency, amnesty, like it doesn't impact them. They don't care. Even if you've been pardoned, they still want to see, even if the records have been expunged, they want to see them. Okay, so if you should provide this military records, you need to provide military records. I will skip over some of them because they, you know, um, so yeah, a certified copy of any military service record, that's always great for you. They like those things, those type of services. Remember, guys, in order for you to get a green card under the visa lottery, this type of grant of a green card is discretionary. So the least thing can take you out of the game. And there are certain things that can also help you, right? So of course, if you're part of the military, it's always really great and honorable. So they love to honor those type of things. So it's very good documents that you should submit. Then document deportation papers. If you have ever been deported, or visa applicants who have requested an extension of stay or a change of status while in the US. So if you've ever requested an extension of stay or a change of status while in the US, or who have been deported from the US, you must present applicable documentary evidence. You know why? Because, for example, if you apply for an extension of stay, the US embassy needs to know, because they are aware that you left after the date you were granted. So they are getting ready to refuse you. So once you present your extension of stay, that, oh, I actually applied for an extension of stay, then they put you back in the right book. So have all these documents, be ready to submit them once you are requested to. Okay. Then the next thing is original documents. Don't forget, you have to have all your original documents. All your original documents is very important. Try to have all those original documents with you so that you can, show it to the consular officer if they want to see the originals. Um, Translation, yes, all documents that are not in English must be translated. The visa fee is a non-refundable fee of $330 per person. Okay, so you can make this payment at the embassy on the day of the interview in cash or by credit card. You cannot pay at any other time. So they want you to pay on the day of the interview. Okay. Alrighty. Now let's take a look at this. We're going to talk about evidence which may be presented to meet the public charge rule. Let me change the screen, and then we can get the applicable document to share with you. Okay, right here. I believe it's okay, this one. This document right here. Let's go to page, I believe it's page 5. Let's see. Yeah, page 5. Okay. Now, what are the documents? So you see, in order, anybody who is likely to become a public charge is inadmissible to the US. Inadmissible means they are not going to grant you a visa to come, an immigrant visa to come to the US. Okay. So you have to show them that, look, when I come, I promise I'm not going to be a burden on the US taxpayer. I know you guys are doing me a favor by granting me a green card. It's a favor, it's a privilege, I should say, right? Because you are asking someone to come and live in their country. So if someone invites you to their home, it's a privilege. You are not entitled to be there. It's their home, so they can decide whether to invite you or not. So you're going to tell them, look, I promise when I come to your home, I'm not going to eat all the food in your fridge. I have my own food. That's what the US government wants. They want you to be able to show them that you're not going to become a burden on the US taxpayer. So you have to submit documents to show that you will not become a public charge. So what's the first thing? Okay, so let's talk about the Immigration and Nationality Act requires an applicant for a visa to establish the satisfaction of the consular officer at the time of application for visa, and also to the satisfaction of the U.S. immigration official at the time of application for admission to the US that he or she is not likely to become a public charge. So at the embassy, you should show it. And when you get to the airport and CBP is interviewing you to come in, you could be required to show this. An applicant for an immigrant visa may generally satisfy this requirement of the law by the presentation of documentary evidence establishing these 4 things. Number one, the applicant has or will have in the US personal funds. You have your own money sufficient to provide support for the applicant and dependent family members, or sufficient to provide support until suitable employment is located. So reasonable funds for maybe the first 6 months, 3 months. Number two, the applicant has arranged employment in the US that will provide an adequate income for the applicant and dependent family members. So you have someone, you have a job or you have a job offer, you found a way to make money. You have arranged employment. Then number three, relatives or friends in the US will assure the applicant's support. Okay. So you need to make sure that if relatives or friends will do this, then they need to submit a form I-134 to show their support. Then number four, a combination of the above circumstance exists. Okay, so you're going to show that, for example, oh, I have friends and family who will be supporting, but I also have some money. I have $10,000, and I have a friend who is also supporting me with some extra money once I come, or even accommodation, or feeding or whatever. Applicants' own funds. I don't think we have enough time to review this. Let's talk about affidavits of support. That's the next page. Let me move to the next page. I know many people may. Okay, so the affidavit of support. Persons in the US who desire to furnish sponsorship for an applicant in the form of affidavits of support, they need to use the form I-134 affidavits of support. It's free on the U.S.A.'s website. Now, here are the things you should include. The sponsor's affidavit should include the following. They have to they have to give us information regarding their annual income, information regarding their sources or resources, how they get their money, obligations for the support of members of his or her own family and persons, if any, So, if you're a sponsor and you have family members, you need to let them know kind of the situation, right? Because they don't want people to be promising other people when they have their own burdens and they can't even take care of their own burdens. So they want to know, what your obligation is like for your own family as a sponsor. Then what are your other obligations and expenses as a sponsor? Like what do you how do you spend your money? What do you spend on? Is there really enough for this other person? Plans and arrangements you've made for the applicant's reception and support, an expression of willingness to deposit a bond if necessary with U.S.A to guarantee the applicant will not become a public charge in the U.S., and an acknowledgement that the sponsor is aware that they are responsible under the Social Security Act, um, and all of that. Now, the sponsor will normally include copies of their latest federal income tax return. That's a Form 1040. Number two, copies of their latest W-2 forms, if they can, yeah, copies of the W-2 forms. Then a statement from his or employer showing the salary length and permanency of employment. If it's a full-time, it's not a contract that's just for 3 months, then that's a problem. It has to be a full-time role and how much they are earning. Then a statement from an officer of a bank regarding his or her account, did the account was open, then the present balance that the sponsor has in there. Any other evidence that is adequate to establish financial ability to carry out this undertaking toward the visa lottery applicant for what might be an indefinite period of time. Okay. So now let me go back a little. Let's backtrack a little bit because you see, the truth of the matter is that sometimes people don't have sponsors, so they have to try to sponsor their own cases. So let's look at applicants' own funds. Applicants' own funds. An applicant who expects to be able to meet the public charge rule through personal financial resources may submit to the consular officer evidence of funds or income from one or more of the following sources. Number one, statement from a senior officer of a bank showing present balance of applicant's account. You need to show the present balance of your account. Date account was open, the number and amount of deposits withdrawals during the past 12 months, and the average balance during the year. If there have been recent and usually large deposits, an explanation should be given. Yeah. Then number two, proof of ownership of property or real estate in the form of a title deed. So document of your property that you own. And then you want to show the present value of the property as well. If there are mortgages or loans against the property, it must be stated, right? Because of course that's a liability, the cost of um your liability in the asset. So they will weigh those things and see if truly there's enough funds if you have to sell that property. Number three, letter or letters verifying ownership of stocks and bonds with present market value or expected earning um, indicated. Then number four, proof of income from business investments or other sources. If the financial resources are derived from a source outside the US, a statement as to how the funds or income are to be transferred to the US must be provided. Let's look at this last thing and then we can call it a day. So employment, if you are relying on an offer of prearranged employment to meet the public charge rule, you should have the prospective employer submit a notarized letter of employment on the letterhead stationery of the employing business. The letter should, number one, contain a definite offer. Number one, contain a definite offer of employment. Number two, give a description of the job offered to you and an explanation of skills which qualify the alien or the non-citizen for the position. Three, they need to state the rate of compensation to be paid, and if it's necessary, additional information detailing benefits to be included in layer of payment, in layer of cash payment. So things like health insurance or well, as part of this job, we give you accommodation or we give you food as part of the job, right? So compensation, lay of cash. You state all of that. Then you specify the location. The employer must specify the location, type, and duration of the employment that's been offered. Specify whether it will be immediately available when the applicant actually arrives in the US. Okay, guys, so I hope this video is helpful to you. Don't forget to start gathering all these documents so that as soon as the results or the winners are announced, you can hit the ground running. I wish you guys all the best. Drop your comments and your questions in the comment section, and then we will probably do another video to clarify areas that are not too clear. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.